Hi, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about stress for education. And we like to go over these emotional health topics because we really feel that they can really impact the physical side of the healing process. So our emotional health can impact the physical healing and vice versa. So they're both really important topics to cover. So today's focus is going to be on stress. And there are times, in our lives where stress can be considered, a good thing. And there are times where stress can be considered not so good. So what I mean by that is, if we are driving down the freeway and a car cuts us off and pulls in front of us, our fight or flight response hopefully automatically kicks in, right? That's good stress. That's a potentially life-saving mechanism, and we need that response and adaptation. So when that stress response or that fight or flight response kicks in, there are a number of physiological changes that occur in the body. Our heart rate revs up, our blood pressure revs up, our perception narrows to a sharp focus so that we can, make a good decision. There are all these things where blood glucose is dumped into the bloodstream for fast energy. So we need that response to hopefully be able to react quickly. And then as things go okay in that situation, our body at some point comes out of that revved up state. And so that's good. Our heart rate slowly comes down, our blood pressure comes down, and we can kind of go on with the rest of our day. That's a good, that's a stress response where we consider that important and good. We consider stress to become more negative for our health, including our heart health, when it becomes more of a chronic problem, right? So say you are in a bad relationship, or say you don't like your manager, or you're having financial troubles, or that type of situation. This is where we can kind of be in that revved up state for longer periods of time, and that can over time put some wear and tear on our body, and it increases that workload for our heart. I like this example of a professor giving a lecture to their students, and they held out a glass of water to their students and said, how much do you think this cup of water weighs? And the students would respond with examples of amounts of weight. And the professor's answer was that it's not so much the actual weight of the water that's important, right? It's how long did you have to hold it out there. If you're holding that cup of water for a minute, you're probably going to be okay. If you're holding it out there for 10 minutes, that arm's really going to start to shake. If you're holding that cup out there for 30 minutes or longer, we might be calling an ambulance. So their point was that it's not so much the amount of that stressor, but it's how long did we hold on to it before we took some time to de-stress. And that's what we're going to go over today also, or what are some techniques to de-stress, where we might, we're always going to have certain stressors in our lives. Some are not, we're not able to avoid all of them. So how do we de-stress? And we're all different. What might work for me might not work as well for you, and vice versa. So we want to kind of, for one thing, identify what are our stressors, and then identify, how do we personally de-stress the best, and start to kind of take those action steps. So on the handout that you guys are going to receive, there is a little flow chart, and it talks about the 4 A's of dealing with stress. So after you have identified your individual stressors or your personal stressors in your lives, kind of utilizing those 4 A's. So the first A on the flow chart here would be, can we avoid that stressor? And not always, right? Sometimes we cannot avoid it. So once that cause is identified, can we potentially say no to that stressor? and just kind of giving yourself space, especially right now in that healing process where it is okay sometimes to say no and create those health boundaries. Can you take a break from that situation? That might be an example of, maybe we avoid Costco on Saturdays, things like that. If that is a major stressor for you, can we avoid it or, go at a different time? And then down that next column, it talks about, can we alter our perception or how we feel about that stressor or how we react to it? Can we express our feelings? Can we view it differently? Sometimes we can tend to, if we look at it differently, like more of an opportunity for growth versus a challenge, sometimes that can kind of be helpful. Can we compromise in that situation? And just kind of think about taking on one thing at a time. And that's a big one for me personally. I'm definitely a list maker. So, for me, I like to, if I'm feeling kind of stressed and overwhelmed, kind of think through, what do I need to get done, in this next month? And then what does that look like for just this week? And kind of, write out my day-to-day task list basically. And it just gives me a little bit of focus on what I need to get done that day. I'm not going to worry about what I need to get done later in the week. So I'm more efficient with my time. And it just helps me feel less stressed and overwhelmed. So I'm definitely a list maker. And I know a lot of people are as well, if that's something that can be helpful for you. The third A that we're going to go down this column here is adapt. So can we, just look at how we see the stressor differently? Can we look at the big picture and kind of reframe that problem and focus on the more positive aspects? So we're really working on changing our perception of that and our attitude towards that. And then that final A is accepting that stressor. And not that we have to like it or love it, but can we find peace with that stressor, more so just for our own health and our own heart health. So just realizing that we can't control everything. We can't control everybody else. Can we, forgive and let go, just kind of focus on what we're doing and only, change what you can personally. So those are those 4 A's at dealing with stressors. So other healthy techniques, again, we're all a little different, but in cardiac and pulmonary rehab, we are big promoters of nutrition and exercise, right? And there's been so much research on how important those things are for not only our physical health, but our emotional health as well. So, getting those rest breaks in throughout your workday, or, scheduling in on the calendar that exercise time, especially when we're going through periods of stress. Getting that exercise time is going to be really important in reducing that stress load. So just like that water example, taking time to set that water cup down before we need to pick that back up again. So exercise regularly is really important. Nutrition is going to be really important. When we put unhealthy foods in our body, that makes us feel worse. It worsens our health. And so we want to make sure we're fueling our body with healthy, nutrient-dense foods that makes us healthier versus sicker. And that really impacts our emotional health as well, and can impact, how we are dealing with those stressful situations. So nutrition and exercise are going to be big. Getting enough sleep is really important. And that's a tough one. We all kind of want to just do the best we can with that, where as adults, we generally want to aim for, 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night if we can. I know that's challenging for myself included, but what are some things we can do to just make sure we're getting better quality sleep? Do we, shut off the screen time at a certain point in the evening? Avoid that cup of midday coffee after a certain time in the day. You kind of know your body is the best. So what works best for you to just really try to get good quality sleep? That's where our bodies kind of heal and recover. And so that sleep time is important. Other options, finding things that make you laugh, or being around people in your life that make you laugh. We all have those people in our lives that some of them, might be great listeners and make us laugh and things like that, and some that are not so much. So find those people in your lives to reach out to during those times where you are feeling more down or more stressed. Music can be really healing for people and de-stressing. So kind of finding that type of music that relaxes you. Finding support, whether that be, a support group, kind of like you're in right now with cardiac or pulmonary rehab, can be great for that support system. Maybe you have that group of friends that you like to walk with or go get coffee with or whatever it might be. So finding that support team. Maybe that might be more of a counselor, which can be really beneficial too. And we'll touch on that a little bit more when we go over the depression education topic, but that can be very beneficial as well to just work with that trained professional in those emotional situations that we're all kind of working through. Let's see. There's also, reading or journaling. Those can be really beneficial for some people too. Even if you don't want that written and then in your house somewhere, some people, write it down, get it out of their heads a little bit, and then burn it or get rid of it, just so it's written down on paper and out there. Those can be really beneficial too. So we'll touch more on, other tips and techniques and ideas with other handouts that we might provide. And feel free to reach out to staff for questions. But those are some of the techniques that I was going to cover with you today on reducing stress levels. Thank you.